One of the things that's kind of, I don't want to say become a buzzword or a buzz phrase during this campaign, but it's often stated by candidates that they feel that government stands in the way of businesses that want to come in or businesses that want to expand. Do you see that as an issue? If so, we're talking about things like permitting and things like that. I think you're on a task force, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm on a city-county task force looking at these things. Yes, it's a problem. It will probably always be a problem. If you're the guy who wants to put up a building or something, nothing probably ever goes fast enough or easy enough or quick enough or clean enough. But where there are problems, we do have, some speed bumps there. And we've got to figure out what they are. Sometimes it is the process itself, the kinds of hoops we make people jump through. And a lot of these so-called hoops are, it's about safety, it's about proper construction, it's all kinds of things, drainage, and those problems just don't get solved instantly sometimes. So some of those things slow it down. But then sometimes it's personnel as well. So I think we're going to have to do a lot better job of training some of the personnel in both the city and the county, and both the commissioners and the mayor, I think, see this as well. That they need to have some better skills at handling people. Mm-hmm. And maybe to look at something like, and I know this is kind of a generic term, it's been around a long time, but something like an ombudsman, someone who is tasked with tracking all the projects that are current and finding out if it's a problem. You go to this person, and they have some authority to say, okay, let's fix this roadblock now. We're taking too long. Okay, so I think we're going to move in that direction. It's a problem. I don't think it's an overly serious problem. Businesses are still coming here, and the larger the city you get, the more hoops there are to jump through. That's true across the nation. I mean, you could probably go to some small town in Wells County. You wouldn't have nearly the issues and problems that you have here. At least that's what I hear developers and architects and businessmen say. So there's an understanding of that. And then it also is really incumbent upon the people who want to build and develop buildings here to follow the rules we set forth. Sometimes businesses simply want to make shortcuts, and they forget to do this or won't do that, or hope you don't catch them. I'm not blaming anybody, but that goes on as well. Sometimes the problems come from both sides. So one of the last things I think we're going to have to do is educating the business community, the contractors, the architects a little better. Maybe have more training sessions for them, that sort of thing. And keep them up to date with the latest changes, because there's always sometimes changes coming along that are mandated by the state. And these can be very small things, Steve. I can't tell you in detail what they are, but there's always new regulations for this or the quality for that or some ADA thing, There's always new stuff coming along. We've got to do a better job of getting that information out so those aren't roadblocks when they're starting to build something, okay? But yeah, it is a problem. It's a problem we're working very hard to correct, and I think we're doing a pretty good job. We can always do better.
What does economic development mean to you?
Yeah, well, it covers the waterfront, good neighborhoods, good streets and sidewalks in neighborhoods. That's economic development. You want to bring somebody and their business here to Fort Wayne, they've got to have neighborhoods to live in. And they're going to want to live in nice neighborhoods. So that's economic development. Everything is. I mean, even police and fire. I mean, if they were doing a bad job, it would affect economic development. I think good government is one of the best things that you can have for economic development. When cities and counties are working together, when you see professional staffs working very hard, and I think both the city and the county, when it comes to their professional staffs, are very good. I particularly find that true in city utilities. So Steve, it could be, improving the gateways into the city, or the one from the airport that a lot of businessmen talk about. That's economic development. Keeping our parks up, the trails, replanting trees when they get, some of the trees have been devastated in our city. All of that is economic development. I just can't imagine what isn't. It all ties together. So we got to be careful sometimes when we use that term, because it doesn't mean just jobs or bringing businesses here. That's part of it, but it's much larger.
quality of life would you?
Yeah, really,
include that
quality
in?
of, that's it. Quality of life and quality of place.
Mhm. You mentioned gateways.
Yeah.
I can't remember, is Jefferson or is Washington coming in?
A gateway?
Is that in your district?
No.
Okay.
No.
But some of the other gateways, I think,
Like the one coming in from New Haven.
yeah.
Is a gateway where you come past Memorial Park and
Right.
and OmniSource and all that sort of thing. That's one of the gateways.
Okay.
But I think the one that probably should be looked at first is probably the one from the airport. Maybe they'll use the new Ardmore corridor in it. I don't know what exactly the right or best corridor is from the airport to say downtown Fort Wayne. But since Ardmore's had such great improvements, maybe that's the area, the entrance could be worked on as you move further towards the airport. So we'll see.
Okay.
But first impressions count, and that's why I mentioned the gateways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gateways all lead downtown.
Yes.
We've all gateways lead downtown.
Like all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah. Parkview Field.
Oh,
They
great
just
success.
celebrated their millionth person paid admission, or I'm not sure exactly. It was the millionth person through the gates down there
Yeah.
for a game.
Well, I'm glad I've contributed to that number. I probably go to a half dozen games a year. No, the stadium has been a great success. I mean, it's a beautiful stadium. It's one of, maybe the finest, minor league baseball stadium in America, and so it's great. Now, it's part of Harrison Square, and the job of Harrison Square, as was originally articulated, was to be a catalyst to revive and revitalize downtown. We've got a good toehold there. The stadium is great. We've got a parking garage. They really don't revitalize. Hotels, it's very good for the Grand Wayne Center. I don't know that a hotel per se is a revitalizer, because I don't go downtown to say I'm going to go to the hotel. But anything that starts bringing our citizens back downtown, that revitalizes, and that's, I think, the task that Harrison Square has on its shoulders. That's the responsibility. And that's going to take some time. Who knows? We may be talking 10, 15, 20 years for that really to come about. And I think we're going in the right direction. The other thing is that when you talk about downtown, I still think that the best area, the strongest area to build in the future is to the north of the river, the land between the St. Mary's River downtown and State Street. There's just a ton of land there.
Mm-hmm.
You got Lawton Park, you've got OmniSource, you've got that I&M property, that old Kroger store sitting there. A lot of land that can be developed to the north. Downtown now is pretty well settled. We still need businesses and retail, that sort of thing. The other thing I would just mention, when you mentioned Parkview Field, Steve, is that there's always talk about having bars and restaurants and that around a facility like that. But when I go to the games, I look around and I see probably half the people there are kids with mom and dad and grandma and grandpa. We probably should think about things for families as well, because those folks aren't going into bars and fancy restaurants either before or after the game. So, what about targeting that audience? Maybe that could bring some new kinds of businesses downtown.
Mm-hmm. Some of the things that have happened downtown during your tenure, the Grand Wayne Center expansion,
Mm-hmm.
the library expansion, the blueprints that we did, the Blueprint Plus, some of the different charrettes, kind of took a back seat with the downfall in the economy. As things start to get better, do you think that we need to maybe brush off the blueprint and the Blueprint Plus, look at them again and reevaluate where we're at? And
Yeah,
is that
I
a
think
concern?
I think that'll be very important. We'll see. As much as you mentioned the Grand Wayne Center, I know when I first got on City Council, that was all underway, and I remember I objected in part to the closing of Harrison Street. I probably was the only person in government anywhere who said, "Don't close Harrison Street. Let's have a trial period to see how it works." Well, I was a voice in the wilderness on that one, but that was the only miscue we made, I think, was closing off Harrison Street. That's over and done with. We've got a great Grand Wayne Center. Our downtown is looking better all the time, and more people are coming there, and that's a good thing. We've just got to keep finding ways to bring more people downtown.